All right, I'd like to introduce our next presenter here today. This is a company that I've known for a very long time, and we're very thankful to be here and providing some assistance with us. So with that, I'd like to introduce Brian Balbirnie from Issuer Direct. Brian?
Thank you, Bobby. You're right, Brock. At least it didn't happen to our customers. Although Bobby and Planet MicroCap is a customer, so in this sense, it kind of did, unfortunately. For folks that don't know who I am, my name is Brian Balbirnie. I'm the founder and CEO of Issuer Direct. We are a publicly traded company on New York Stock Exchange, American Index. And currently, we're going to talk a lot about the business, what we're doing, where we're headed, the technologies that we have, and a recent transaction that we just closed. But one of the things that we do as a business internally is talk a lot about this statement. And it really resonates with our staff and our customers, perhaps more than it does you guys, right? Because you think about our businesses in maybe different ways than we do. But the vision to reinvent how brands share, tell, and inspire their audiences really means, how do I curate a message? What is the message? The message is a story. The story is, I want to talk to you about an AI product that I'm going to release here in 30 days. The AI product has a code name that we'll call Amy. Brett knows about this because we were talking about this a little bit ago. And so we curate the story in our business with our marketing teams and our IR folks, talking about what it could mean to our customer, most importantly, what it means to our staff and our business long term, and then what does it ultimately mean to our shareholders and the markets. And so for today, think about Amy and this AI engine, this recommendation engine, as I talked to you about this on our last quarterly earnings call. And that's how we drive our messaging, is based on this statement. Forward-looking data, everybody knows. I don't need to talk about that. But just some high-level bits of information that folks, a lot of you know. Some of you don't, so I'll be a little repetitive if you don't mind. About 23 countries, we've got customers in, 130 employees with just over 5,500 customers today. About 1,000 of those 5,500 customers subscribe to our software technologies and our SaaS-based business model. What that means is I need 4 earnings calls, an investor relations website, some press releases, and maybe some compliance tools, and they spend $10,000 to $20,000 a year licensing that product. Others buy singular products in their subscription portfolios. The rest of those customers, and keep this in mind for later when we have a conversation about some new products, they buy one thing from us, news. We're the 4th largest newswire in North America, and likely still the fastest growing newswire, which is wonderful. We do that by 2 different brands. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But then something a little unique about us, as a lot of you know, there's about 3.7 million shares issued and outstanding, and we still have about 25.5%, 26% inside ownership. So as we'll talk about some peers later, some of these metrics I think are very important for you all to be looking at. I think I was in the last presentation just a minute ago, and the CEO standing there said she can't do it without the rest of her team. And it dawned on me that that's probably the most obvious statement that any of us could stand up here and say, right? It really, truly is. And a lot of times I reflect on the fact that for you that have been in the presentation rooms, I've never done this before. It doesn't mean that I didn't believe that they weren't the team, because without them, truly, there is no company. And so I felt like it was very important now to really bring out each one of these individuals to talk to you about who they are and what they do. And I'll do that over time, because today we only have 30 minutes. But if they don't have 16 to 17 years experience in the company, meaning James and Preston and myself, the rest of these people have 20 plus years experience in their craft, right? Whether it's marketing, or whether it's technology. Mark, for example, I've known Mark for 20 years, became our CTO in January. Mark was the chief monetization officer at OnStar at GM. That was his last position of a C-level. So we're recruiting the right people. We have the right folks in the organization that know the business better than I do in a lot of cases. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't get to stand up here and do what I do today. What we do, though, really is the crux of what this is. We built a technology 17 years ago to make compliance processes run faster, meaning how do I convert regulatory filings, get it to the SEC, get it to CDR, do it for cheaper, better, faster, cheaper model. That's who it was and what we were. But as we looked at the market, we said to ourselves, the total addressable market for compliance solutions is diminishing, right? The 2006 to 2008 period, public companies shrank, and they're still not growing at the rate, meaning new ones. But there is tens of millions of private companies all over the world that need communications platforms, technologies, and products to be able to help drive that story, that message to the market. And so that really is where we're focused today as we look at the total addressable market being over $3 billion spent every year and growing as likely low teens percentages today. is on media monitoring, database analytics, news distribution, and press rooms or newsrooms, if you think about it in that way. So it's our job to be sure we capture those most important moments, give them technologies to do what they do, and generate good subscription revenues as we go. So the product sets are highlighted in two categories, as everybody knows: communications and compliance. They're not segments of our business, to be fair. On the financial reporting side, we'll call them revenue streams, but they're two pillars of where we build our business. Our compliance business, we've joked every quarter and said it will continue to shrink at single digits. It continues to grow in single digits, and it will likely continue to do that again this year, as we've got the gentleman in the back of the room, James Michael, running that division for us. On the left, our communication products. You'll see the highlighted areas of the three, they call this pink, it's sort of our new colors now. These are the three products that we picked up as part of our acquisition of Newswire that we'll spend a little bit of time talking about today. And so as you think about subscription products, you think about reoccurring sticky revenues that we'll show you in a second, those products are very important for us to get to the total addressable market. And I'll tell you the reason why. When our sales organization sits in front of a customer, regardless public or private, and we've identified the opportunity and they're in the pipeline, the customer says, we're spending about $20,000 a year. We're buying press releases. We buy some IR products because we're public, but our marketing and corp comm people really need database pitching and analytics. Do you have those tools? Guess what the answer was up until just recently? We'd said no. And as no, we lost a seat at the table, and Decisions and the Meltwaters and the Muckracks and everybody else would win those deals, and we wouldn't. So part of the transaction value for us was to really look at what Newswire was as a deal that we did in November, and do we get additional products to help us catapult this business to the next level? It's great to be a $22, $23 million business last year. It will be great to grow at 10 to 20 to 30%, but without these products, we don't get to the addressable market and the size of the business that we really want. And so that the reason why we highlighted that, we thought it was important. Everybody knows ISDR, Issuer Direct, right? Everybody understands that in the room, but I tell you that more often than not, everybody I talk to about the business, when it gets down to the details, it's how is AccessWire doing? How is the volume happening? How are you gaining market share? What's happening there? So to be fair about the peers, I'm just going to look at those peers because I know everybody is top of mind. This data is based on March, okay? We look at it every month to try to figure out where the volume is coming from in the industry. I would tell you, Decision PRN actually grew about 6% in the month of March. There's anomalies and the reasons why that we don't need to talk about today. But the point is that we said that we doubled our news volume in the industry. It's not revenue. We'll just talk about volume for a second. And so getting us almost to 6% is doubling the volume of our news business. Our hope is to get that number to 10% as quickly as we can in the next 12 to 18 months and continue to do that, but do it in such a way that we get ourselves really good product sticky platforms and not sell press releases all day long. The problem with selling press releases all day long is they're not sticky to us. They buy one and they go. They buy three, then they go. So the majority of our sales and marketing organization today is focused on trying to find customers looking to buy the entire package and solution. And look, evidence of success of that is the reason why you see the word Decision PRN. It's not PR Newswire anymore. It's not Globe Newswire anymore. These are companies like Notified and like Cision that have put an entire communications platform behind the news business and helps push that business even further forward. So it's a model of success, to be fair. We're doing it in a very different way than they're doing it, but it's definitely something that the industry is accustomed to purchasing and doing all together at once. You've probably read the 8K, you've probably seen the press releases, and likely I've talked to a lot of you about this transaction. And so I wanted to highlight just a few areas of this for you because I think it's important to do it. And the one is, why'd you pay $43.9 million for a news business that didn't have any distribution, but had customers and revenue and used a reseller? And so I'll give you a couple of reasons as to why. The first is that the most difficult part is acquiring the customer. The cost of acquiring the customer is the big expense. And so for us, we had to look at the fact that we're really good IR people, right? We understand the investor relations space, how to sell communications and compliance products to public companies. But to get to 10 to 20 to 50,000 potential customers, it was important for us to find assets in the market that just understood how e-com and digital marketing worked and how to scale that business. And Newswire represented that, but it did it with some significant brand domain authority, right? Newswire.com, pressrelease.com, mediadatabase.com, and dozens of others that we're able to drive traffic to every single day as a result of that. So the long short for us, we got good people, we got some great customers, we got good revenues as a result of that, and some really good products that we'll talk about in a few minutes. And then we financed the transaction with current cash, a seller note, and then a little bit of equity because we wanted them along for the ride with us. Michael Esposito and Lee Capital, him and I talk every couple of weeks. He's still involved in the business and likes to help where he possibly can. But then what we did just last month here is remove the one-year seller note at 6% interest and went to a long-term note with a commercial bank and did that essentially at the same interest. It was almost 6.2%. So in this environment, we felt like we did a fantastic deal. We moved the business out of a short-term obligation into a long-term obligation, did it with a banking partner that had good covenants to us as a business. So we're still able to think about share buybacks. We're still able to think about dividends in the future. So we've got some flexibility there, and we don't have covenants that will prevent us from doing it. Not to suggest that we're going to do any of those things, but just to understand how we negotiated this puts the business in a really good position. So we spent a lot of time doing due diligence and integration and now note refinancing to put the business into the next stage, which is going to be significant growth. On our 8K that announced the transaction, we talked a lot about our total communications revenue reaching 80% being just news distribution. And so today we're thinking like almost 70% of the business is now press releases. And I'm going to tell you that number is going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to grow because the tens of thousands of private companies that want to tell their story need a platform that's going to have everything from A to Z, this storytelling engine that we've talked about quite a bit. We're still going to see the compliance business, as we talked about earlier, be a single-digit growth business, but as a proportion of revenue, a percentage of revenue will continue to decline as our communication scale business happens more and more. What you will see from this is a result of what you will see in Q1 and you've seen in prior quarters. We're starting to get additional operating leverage out of the business. And it comes in a couple different ways. News distribution, I think I've been very transparent with everybody and told you that some is a pay-for-play game. You have to pay to distribute the news for your customers. Others is based on content and licensing arrangements that we make. So at a certain level of volume, the pricing incrementally doesn't continue to drive. So we've got some leverage in the business now. So as we build continual scale, we're going to see gross margin numbers start to improve and EBITDA margins also start to improve as a result of having this additional volume as we push the business further and further ahead. A few minutes ago, we talked about subscriptions. Ended the year with a little over 1,000 subscriptions of our current customers at about $8,600 and change. Wanted to give you some historical look back to see what this ARPU number is moving towards and maybe where a management target is of where we're going to go. As we think about database analytics and pitching products, we understand clearly that that's going to move the needle to $10,000 to $15,000 annually per customer at a base level. But we have to have a target in mind to get our current subscribing customers to a certain number by the end of the year, and that number is 10,000. So trying to move that $8,600 number to 10, and then get into next year into 12,000 above as they buy more products. So what I would tell you is new customers entering the deals starting in end of Q2 will end up being at 12,000 and higher. We're trying to just still move that $8,600 number to the 10,000 plus annual subscription rates. We're doing that today already by adding newsrooms to our customers. We're doing that today by adding some compliance products to companies that need it. We're also doing it by adding media database to customers from the Newswire side today we're doing as well. There's one product that I haven't talked about that's up here. It's called Media Advantage Plan, and that's another product that we're also cross-selling between our organizations, meaning the Newswire core customer base and AccessWire. And for folks that don't know what Media Advantage Plan is, it is a way for a private company to really have their own internal PR firm as well as a storytelling platform wrapped up into one. They can't afford a full-fledged PR firm, so they come to folks like us to build PR strategy, to help with calendaring and timing throughout the year, to be sure that every press release that drops, there's earned media, targeting, and database work going on in the background. We have a team of Media Advantage strategists that do this all day long for those customers. It's about 50 of them today doing it. We're continuing to grow those numbers, and those subscription rates are much higher than the $10,000 to $12,000 that we're talking about here today. So we're going to spend some time in that product here. You'll see in the next couple of weeks. We're going to rebrand it called PR Optimizer, or Pro for short. Kind of goes along with the model of what we're doing from a business standpoint and what we're trying to target and brand our customers. But I think the one thing that probably should be bolded and maybe a different color is the brand recognition continues to get stronger. I don't want to get in the weeds on some of the details, but every day we continue to get inbound leads because people saw the AccessWire name on a dateline of a press release. That's a powerful thing for us. And so those inbound leads come at 10 to 12 to 15 a day. And I would tell you this, as a public company, if I'm shopping for a solution provider to help me, I'm a 3 to 6 months decision. It's just what it is. I have a current contract I have to work out of. I have to look at all the vendors, do all the right assessments, check security. There's a lot involved there. So for our sales organization, those pipelines grow and they shrink. When you think about a private company that comes in, says, I have a story to tell. I need to get to my local market. How do I do it? What does it look like and how much does it cost? And we have very targeted sales individuals that handle that. And 25% of those are one call closes. They happen immediately. So that's a very different business than we're used to. And so from that perspective, that brand recognition means a lot to us by what we bought from newswire.com and that whole transaction, but also just the AccessWire name as well as we continue to brand and build. A slide that I've never done before, because I would tell you, bless you, a slide that I've never done before, because I think it's important that you guys look at some of these things, is we think about Issuer Direct, we tend to not talk about our peers a lot. Innodata is one, Q4 is another, and EQS is a third. And we do peer analysis every single month, right? Every quarter they file their financials and any of the regulatory markets or exchanges, they need to do it. We pull it down and we analyze it because we say to ourselves every day, what are we doing that they're not? What are they doing in reverse, right? And we look at revenue, we look at margin contribution, we look at free cash flow from operations, and we start to analyze all these things. And in most cases, as you see, we outperform each one of these companies every single time and time again. I'm not going to tell you who, but there's two of them out there that at the current burn rate, running out of cash. At the end of this year, they'll be out. They're going to have to raise more money. If they do, they're diluting all of us as shareholders. And so I think it's important to think about this as for folks that, to be fair, that aren't shareholders of Issuer Direct today. I'd love to spend some time on this with you, right? And it's not enough time here to do that today. But I'd like to unpack this because I've got a workbook I'd love to show you because I think it's something that you really should be looking at as you try to find the underlying value for what Issuer Direct is and the potential that what it has for us today. The future. We talked a little bit about Amy. We may have another name for it. It's a code name for today. But this storytelling platform is something I talked about a couple of years ago and maybe a couple of presentations, maybe even before COVID, was really about what is this? And this is a bad example of what the flywheel is. If you think about the common economic flywheel of a business and how it drives, you can iterate 3 or 4 different components. And if you can perfect each one of those, you can just run and go faster and the business can scale. And so for us, we try to think about that. And perhaps I could have graphically done it in the flywheel to make it much easier, but it's really led by the storytelling news distribution platform. And to be fair, the hundreds of thousands of potential customers are there for us don't have the ability to write all that content on their own. Everybody wants AI technologies to do it. And so we're getting ready to release a product that's going to give the customer the ability to have an assisted writing platform for them, not a writer, but an assisted writing platform because we believe that's important. It will not be based on ChatGPT because there are fundamental security problems with that technology stack in OpenAI right now. But the second, we're going to give them the ability to peer analyze their content and look at it against their sector and industry with customers that have used our news distribution platform before. So it's a really big competitive advantage for us. You wrap it up into what I call the COM tools. The media database targeting and monitoring products are going to be what's going to drive some of that engagement and value. And then the PR Optimizer product, I told you about that. The result for us, increased subscriptions and customers will get us there. You told me 3 minutes, so I'm at Q&A point. I know I tried to talk fast. I know my voice is hoarse. If anybody has any questions, I would love to answer some of them for you. Yes, Brock. So the market is made up of quadrants of products, right? Pitching is what, to give you some of the common layman terms would be, how do I market to you? How do I reach you? If I find a database product and I analyze the 25 journalists at the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg or whoever I need to get to, typically databases will tell you, here's who they are. Great, you download the data as a company, and then what do you do with it next, right? So pitching is a component of media database. You'll be able to select the individuals that you want to target or market to, and you'll use our pitch campaign builder that will essentially let you take that current press release, write a story using AI generative content, or write your own content and distribute it to their desktops immediately. In return, we give you all back the engagements, which is the mentioned reporting, right? That's the monitoring components. So they all go together. They're very important to fit together. So that pitching product, I want to tell you it's MailChimp, but if you think about it in a way that it's an email campaign product that hits email, that hits social, and hits text all at the same time. So it's a little more advanced than a typical email product, but it drives all the analytics of engagement, which are going to be the most important thing from a defendability perspective. Any other questions? Yes, sir. So, lifting their hand up. So the PR Optimizer product will have a strategist that will help them. And I think what's important to point out is the strategist isn't going to make up their news, right? The strategist is going to help refine the messaging, help target it against their peers, the industry, and try to make sure that there's relevant content in the release. And look, we're all guilty of it. We write something, we think it's great, we give it to somebody else, and they look at it and they're like, what is this? That's what those strategists are there to do. We don't want to be in the game of manufacturing news or trying to drive the narrative. That's not our business. It's a nudge. Yeah, it's a nudge. That's what the calendar's for, right? Is we're going to build that calendar right up front on engagement to say, here are the things you need to do through the year. So it's very mechanical, and they should absolutely know that. That's correct. One last one. Great question. So look, I think I said it on the last call, our earnings call, we had planned to have the news distribution components integrated by June. We did that 2 months ago, so we're very well ahead. Sales and marketing, back office accounting, finance, and HR are all integrated. Editorial teams are integrated. Everything is completely done. We are running as one company, even right down to benefits and emails and the whole bit. So we're well ahead of our plan there and what we're doing. We have built ourselves a pretty good integration team as a result of the management team that you saw earlier, folks that are able to pick up the baton and run fast now, which is good. That doesn't mean we're going to go do another deal tomorrow. It just means that we've got good success well ahead of that. And so what I think I'll leave you with on that expanded comment is that as a result, we'll see all of those synergy savings come in Q2. We got partial this month, right? Or this quarter rather, meaning Q1 that we're yet to report that comes here on the 11th. So we've got some work to do to show you that in Q2. You'll see all of those. We'll talk a lot about that after the earnings call so everybody has a clear understanding of what that looks like. Thank you, everybody.